Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy Friday. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, family. We made it to the end of the week. I'm sorry if you have to work this weekend, but for me, this is the weekend, and I plan to rest, especially after this video, because I know for a few days it seemed like it was the end. It was the end of Kohlberger. It was the end of the IDAHO4. But I promised you yesterday that I was going to have a really interesting video, right, for Friday. And it's, oh baby, it is interesting because I never thought that I would see the day where Steve Gonsalves is out here in the open basically exposing corrupt law enforcement, okay? This is fudging crazy. It is insane. He is giving interviews. I just watch one and I'm still like, I'm still recuperating, right? So I'll wait a couple seconds. We're going to be talking about KAYLEE. Allegedly, she had possibly been gagged, okay? That is insane. This is new information that we have never heard of before. Steve claims that this information was mentioned to him by the coroner, maybe, what is she, coroner slash nurse slash lawyer slash runway model, Kathy Mabit. I'm like, wait a minute, they did what to Mabit? So he is giving very revealing interviews, right? Is it possible that KAYLEE was gagged? So Steve is exposing these autopsy remarks, and we've never heard of this yet. And he's throwing everybody and their mother under the bus in this latest interview he did with News Nation. So let me pull up chat here. I promise I will eventually get to it. Now, we know, maybe you don't know, that the gag order was finally lifted. Is the G fam ever going to get the truth? We know that it sounds like we're all going to magically have access to all of these records. Please don't die, phone. Because this non-dissemination order is lifted, but I'm like, okay, what is going on? Because did KAYLEE G have marks around her mouth? According to Steve G, she did, right? Now, personally, I would probably lose my ability to function if no one ever told me what exactly happened to my children after a horrific crime and after 2.5 years. And we know that there are laws in place that prohibit a lot of the documents from being unredacted and unsealed, right? Now, we've heard Kohlberger's lawyers claiming that because emotions are high and because there is so much publicity in this case, the press really needs to hold off on interviewing people as they leave the courthouse at the sentencing hearing, which is Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Remind me in the chat, please. Remind me in the comments. Now, let's talk about the sealed court documents, because again, we know that there are hundreds of sealed documents and they are not going to be automatically unsealed, people. It's going to take some time. It's probably going to take months before they even begin to be released. Right now, at this sentencing that is yet to take place, Kohlberger still could technically withdraw his plea. And even if he doesn't, he can still appeal later, right? He can claim ineffective assistance from his defense counsel. And although the state, the prosecution, Bill Thompson, everybody and their mama is not really worried about this, I can see why parents of the victims would be potentially concerned about this, right, in the future. Because a lot of Americans, again, it's like, it really irks me because it's not the fault of Americans necessarily, but our system is built not to really educate people. They teach you how to be a factory worker. They teach you how to be a robot when you're going to school. They don't teach Americans about the law. And we end up with a bunch of idiots, no offense, because I'm an American born and raised. I was military. I am veteran. And a lot of people don't understand the law. They're like, well, how can he appeal if he already promised that he was not going to appeal? Babe, there are legal loopholes, right? So yes, I can totally see why parents of some of the victims would be concerned about this, you know, potentially Kohlberger appealing. Like, remember, this case is not over yet, not yet. Even after Judge Hippler puts the gavel down, Kohlberger can still have several avenues to appeal. This is, like, it should be well known. So just now, you know, if a family member or yourself, you get in legal trouble, you always have the opportunity to appeal. Now, we have also heard Brian Kohlberger's lawyers mention things could happen at sentencing. I'm like, what are they talking about? Are they referring to a possible appeal, or are they referring to somebody potentially dangerous taking place? We know that emotions are all over the place in regards to this plea, and we know it's going to be an emotional day for the family, especially the Gonsalves family. You know, we have allegedly heard them already make threats towards Bryan Kohberger, so who knows what could happen. I forgot the disclaimer, my opinions, my theories, my speculations. So this is for entertainment purposes only. So what could happen? You know, it could be a dangerous situation. Do you guys think he's going to appeal? If you think Mr. Bryan Kohberger could appeal in this sentencing, please leave a 1. If you think that's no way, leave a 2. Now, we know that the Supreme Court, and again, for those of you who do not know, from those of you who are actually living in the US, know that the Supreme Court has actually ruled that everybody is entitled to the right to an appeal. So we've heard Kohberger's lawyers mention that there have been so many threats made not only to Bryan, but also Bryan's family members as well, and even court staff. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, that is like a huge WTF, which I just think points to the emotional instability, the emotional volatility of so many people that are not even directly involved in this case, right? They just hear a couple news stories and then they make BK and everyone else who isn't a guilter an enemy to be destroyed. Very dangerous people, very low IQ individuals. When you know you're dealing with a low IQ or less intelligent individual when they are that quick to jump to conclusions just by listening to the news. So many people, I'm going to say 95% of people, have probably never actually bothered to read any of the legal documents, right? And we know these are public, they're out there, but most people don't read them. Now, we know that the GFAM wanted all court orders and all the case files released before the sentencing because they wanted to prepare their victim impact statements and they wanted them to be accurate. And they're not going to get that info. And this is just going to make Steve Gonsalves, in my opinion, very, very angry, more angry than he already is, especially with Bill Thompson, especially with the state. And I think Steve, is it possible that the veil has lifted from his eyes? Because when I watched this News Nation interview that was aired 11, 12 hours ago, it looks like the veil has lifted. And again, I never thought I was going to see this day. It's so refreshing to me to see him, like, maybe it's all finally sinking in, right? But is Steve just now realizing that he was nothing but a pawn? Steve was nothing but a pawn used by law enforcement. He was used by the state to inadvertently further push the narrative of the state. They were utilizing him, and now, in hindsight, I think that he's waking up. I think the veil is hopefully slowly lifting, and I think he's realizing I was just used. I was used, and what do I get for it? I get a big middle finger. Now, Mr. Steve G himself has said that the gag order was not to protect the victims, but to protect people from cameras, from the media who did not know what to say, people who did not know how to answer questions, people who did not know of, you know, things being released that they didn't mean to say in front of the cameras. And the first person I can think of immediately is Chief Fry, because he kept being an idiot. He kept putting false information out there, then having to retract. Hence the gag order, according to Steve G, right? Now, we know that Chief Fry and Lanier, where are they now? Steve G mentions in this latest interview that they're retired, and he thinks that that is why. They want nothing to do with this. They don't want to be involved. It's going to be a lot of eyes on them if they were not retired or if they were not at other police departments, right? Now, we have heard Chief Fry lie to Moscow several times, but the time that I think about specifically is when he mentioned it was a targeted attack. It was a targeted attack. Then he's having to go back in front of the cameras and say, yeah, so we're not sure. Actually, we take it back. Hence the gag order. And per Steve, gag order was there not to protect the victims, not to protect anybody, but to protect who? To protect these people that are talking to the media, fucking up everything, right? Now, Steve also said it's a dog and pony show, and we're supposed to pretend that there's top secret information inside the docs. And Mr. G also said they were all told, you're gonna have to trust us. You're gonna have to trust us, right? Who keeps deleting comments in the chat? Are you guys okay? I see people continuously retract information. Let me know if you guys are being bothered so we can block if there's any trolls or haters, right? Because we do not tolerate disrespect here. Mr. G said, that's what they were told. You're going to have to trust us. And now he's saying, and now there's no connection to be established. There's no connection. How do you go from, this is a guy, it was a targeted attack, to there's no connection, right? And we've been saying this for 2.5 years, but now it's actually coming out of Steve Gonsalves's mouth. That's right. So he says he was also told, how do you get targeted? He says he thinks it's more about a cover-up, covering the mistakes they made, referring to law enforcement, and a cover that destroyed the crime scene, right? You want to cover yourself. They made massive mistakes. That was the biggest red flag for so many of us, right? When you're lying to your entire community, telling them it's safe, you continue to diddle daddle, continue to live your lives as if there is not potentially a loose criminal out there. You continue spending money, you continue going to classes, going to the university, live your life. This was probably an isolated event. And then having to retract that. And then destroying the freaking, the crime scene. How do you destroy the crime scene? And I understand that both parties agreed to it, but that alone is a big red flag. This is one of the most horrific crimes that has taken place in the entire effing country. And the first thing you want to do is destroy the house. Even if you can make a model on a computer program and guide the jury through the house, you would keep the house alone, even if it was for acoustics alone. Because what have we heard people that were interviewed say? Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, AKW, thank you. We've heard people say that this house was like a cardboard house. Like you could literally hear people in the basement if you were on the highest floor. So destroying the house, destroying the crime scene, it is just a breath of fresh air for me to be able to hear Mr. Gonsalves say WTF, basically exposing the corruption within law enforcement, and also saying that, you know, the lawyers and everybody in that courtroom is bound by the laws in that courtroom. Therefore, they can't really talk. It was also refreshing for me to hear Mr. Gonsalves mention that he was basically lied to this entire time. You know, they kept giving him random bits of information, but what was most interesting to me was that he actually mentioned, in my opinion, a potential source of the leak. In that interview, if you watch very, very closely, he mentioned somebody giving him information, and it sounds like it was somebody from law enforcement telling him that KAYLEE had apparently potentially been gagged. And also, according to Coroner Maybet, KAYLEE had red marks around her mouth. So were they actually asleep? It doesn't sound like it, right? Because why would you cover somebody's mouth if they're sound asleep when they supposedly pass away? That means that she was probably screaming for her effing life. So what else are we not being told, right? There is a lot, and I have always been back and forth with the GA family, but I've always sided with justice and with truth. And I'm glad to hear that the Gonsalves family wants the truth out there. I think he is also confused from, again, how did law enforcement go from this was an isolated event to not, and now to there's no connection. I think he's going to have a lot of questions in the future, and it will be interesting once these documents are unsealed, and it's going to be a while, so we're going to have to be patient. Again, even if the gag order has been lifted, it's going to be so long until all the documents are released. It's probably going to be months post-sentencing, and even then, when things are released, they're probably going to be heavily redacted. We're probably going to get sheets that are just blurred out in black, because a lot of that information, you know, there's a time frame, because again, Kohberger could still appeal. This is his constitutional right per the Supreme Court. Again, I don't understand how so many freaking Americans don't understand this. Please, people, get educated. And this is not to talk down to you. It's not that I'm a lawyer, but it's to make sure that you're educated for your own safety, because anybody could be in this messy situation or something similar, right? So again, this is for all of our safety. It's good to know basic law 101 to protect ourselves, our family, our husbands, our children from corruption. So how are you guys doing in the chat? I hope my phone does not die, but if it does, it's because I was irresponsible. I was working and I didn't have my charger on me, and I'm too far from a charging area at the moment. So now, in this interview that Steve just did with News Nation, like I said, it was uploaded, I believe, 11 or 12 hours ago. He is in his head linking the PORN, the corn searches that Koberger allegedly made involving female victims who were gagged. He is linking that to the marks that Coroner Maybet told him about that KAYLEE had around her mouth. Is there a correlation? Again, it's very hard for me to know that, because I, as somebody who studied psychology, know that a lot of people can watch a lot of porn online that they would never ever partake in the real world, right? But does it make him look a little sus? Some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no, that what you watch on porn or whatever you Google on your porn searches does not necessarily reflect what you're going to do in the real world, right? So, oh my God, I'm sweating. I get so sweaty when I'm talking about this case. It's like, I get too passionate, you know? It's the ADD. Let's see who's in the chat before the phone dies. Hi, Shelly. Welcome. Happy Friday. Hello, Holly. Holly says, I'm sorry. I just don't believe that Kathy saying it appears as though a gag via hand took place, judging by marks. I don't consider that actually gag. That's more like held her to quiet her. Yeah. Who knows? I wasn't there, so it's hard to know, right? Marge, hello. Hello. Holly Berry, not trying to be insensitive. We have to be precise in this. Okay, well then go tell that to News Nation, because that's literally a similar title that they have, right? So, AKW, I would flip my shit over 80% of the way they handled this case. Exactly. The 911 call. Also, by the way, how do you have such a massive delay? House demolition, just a few of the things. And then on top of that, we have like Lanier retiring. We have Chief Fry retiring. We had Rosenthal, Officer Rosenthal. Was he not moved to another police department? You know, he was a little sus for a lot of people in the beginning. Just a lot of movement of police personnel, right? Like that doesn't sit right with me, right? Offset Guitar says, I think Brian will appeal. Maybe. Dean. Marge says, one, Dean says, Holly Berry never believed one person did this. It's hard to swallow. Yeah, I've always believed there was at least 2+ people. At least. AKW, as a parent, and he was guilty 100%, would you care how they got the evidence? That's a very tough question to face. It's a hard question to face, right? But I think it'd be the right thing to do. Like, if you actually want to get justice for your children, like, you want the real person in jail. And I'm praying, I'm hoping, after this interview that Mr. G did, I'm praying that, again, that veil over his eyes is finally lifting and that he starts questioning even more all of these things that are nonsensical, all of these coincidences that are very suspicious. I think deep down in his subconscious, this is my opinion, by the way, Mr. G does not actually believe that Koberger did this, or he does not believe that Koberger did this alone. I feel like this is why maybe, just maybe, he really wants everything unsealed. He really wants to see the evidence, because none of it is making sense. And if you actually want justice for your daughters, because he claims that Maddie was like a daughter to him, then you're going to do whatever it takes to get to the bottom of everything. And also so that you can get some mental peace, right? Because otherwise that's always going to be in the back of your head, right? Super Oro, timely to be here for Nika's live. Welcome. Happy Friday. Funeral rep. I don't believe that Koberger will last long enough to be concerned about an appeal. Yeah, that's a lot of people have been mentioning that. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like the man has gone threat since the beginning of time. So yeah, I could see things going wrong. Holly says, I believe he will appeal for sure. He didn't do this except if Fed or Widsec theory. And so many people are losing their minds because in the last hearing, Ann Taylor said it was a pleasure to like be able to defend you, and people are like, oh my god, that is the most disgusting lawyer. Why would she say that? She knows he's an unaliver and that blah 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 blah. Why is she thanking him? And why is Judge Hippler being so nice to him, telling him that he's respectful? What's wrong with him? This is disgusting. I'm like, this is like basic manners, honestly. Like, I'm not sure what people are expecting, right? Amanda, Steve said Brian was hired as an informant. When did he say that? Can you send me the link? If you can send it to me, send it to my Instagram, please. I would really love to see that. Carl, good afternoon. Vita. Mark says, dog and pony show clarification. Shit show. And I do believe Steve is done with their BS. Yes, exactly. Rise, I just deleted one. I was slow on answering something and it didn't make sense. No worries. Happy Friday, Rise. William says SG is all over the map. I mean, yes, he is. But also, when you've been manipulated and utilized by law enforcement as a pawn, like you're just part of their little, just a piece in their chess game, right? It would be hard to not be all over the place. So Dean says, I believe BK knows something. It was his knife sheath, I believe, but who framed him? That's the question. EB and Molly Meth, are they involved along the line? Molly Meth is super sus to me. And she's mentioning she's friends with Bill Thompson. Gross. Yuck. Hey Hoppers, you made it. Welcome. Surely it would show there was more than one perp, and it took longer than the minutes presented if they gagged him. They would not go without struggle, which would eat into the time. It doesn't make sense. Right? It's probably because the crime was committed earlier, like we all speculated, maybe 3:30. Oh my gosh. Oh, who said they were working 12-hour shifts? I just saw it and they're like, my computer's acting weird. Take care, please rest and eat a lot of food so you can recover from those long shifts. Truth Seeker says she has remained professional the entire time, but people have a problem with that? Of course. People have a problem with anything all the time. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Offset guitar. Molly Meth is disgusting. Hello, Jaden. Kate Ford, I think there were rugs involved. That's why there was such a delay in calling 911. Kate Ford, I think you would appreciate yesterday's live. Yeah, we totally went into the numerology regarding the Aryan Brotherhood gang. Their symbol is a 12 and combinations of 1 and 2, like 1122, like 1122 King Road, or like November 2022. They use 1 and 2. So go watch yesterday's live. I think you'll appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure you watch all the way to the end. If you are just coming in, make sure you are part of the replay crew so that you don't miss anything. Let me know. Please make sure to vote. This is the second time we're voting in this video. Make sure to vote in the chat and definitely make sure to vote in the comment section. Do you think that potentially KAYLEE was gagged? You know, Steve is talking about these marks that KAYLEE had around her mouth. So is that a possibility? Please leave a 1. If you think it's not a possibility, please leave a 2. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure to like, subscribe, and make sure to sign up for notifications. That way you are ready when we go live and you're not missing any of these truth bombs, right? So you guys have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Stay safe. See you soon, guys.